The former president is accused of falsifying his company's business records to disguise payments made to his former attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, to reimburse him for a $130,000 payoff made to Daniels. Want to talk about this case here and the historic significance, so let's bring in Tre Lovell, a business trial attorney over in Los Angeles, joining us now live. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we do know that Trump has tried a few times to get this trial delayed. As of right now, it appears that jury selection is going to start Monday and all of this will continue. What has Trump's argument been as to why this trial should be delayed and shouldn't happen?
It's been a couple of things. One argument is that, due to the pretrial publicity, they can't impanel an impartial jury. Also, that the venue being in New York is heavily favored against Trump, and he can't find a reasonable juror. So they've been bringing those a number of times, actually, both of which have fallen, and for good reason. New York County has over 1 million people, so to think you can't find at least 12 impartial jurors is tough. And the pretrial publicity, well, a lot of that has been guarded by Trump, because it can't really a jury because of the publicity when I've caused the publicity. So, rightfully the judge has denied those, and we are set for trial, or at least for jury selection, on Monday.
At this point, we're just 2 days away. Is there anything, in your opinion and your legal expertise, that could actually cause this trial to be delayed at this point?
Not really. Jury selection is going to start on Monday. If for some reason after a few days they're having trouble trying to impanel an impartial jury, they could renew that motion, and the court may consider it. But at this point, they've done all of the pretrial efforts to try to push it, unless and when trial gets started, unless a witness becomes sick or there's a good reason why it can't go forward, the court's going to stick to the schedule.
I imagine it has to be fairly difficult to seat a jury who doesn't know something about this case, considering we're talking about a former president of the U.S. That probably creates more of a complication, I guess, with seating a jury.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to find anybody that hasn't at least heard of it. But, that's not really the issue, because you can have people that either don't like Trump, didn't vote for Trump, but have a good sense of justice and say, hey, I don't like the guy, but, he didn't do this. And it's just a matter of kind of vetting that out, making sure that, potential jurors, that they don't have that bias, that irrespective of who they voted for, who they like, they can listen to the evidence and they can be fair. So, you can find, those people around, and that's what they're going to be relying on. And there's a number of tests and things that the court can do and the attorneys can do to really vet out any type of bias. And if somebody's biased, they can't sit. So there are protections in there, but it is a heavily anti-Trump juror pool, for sure. So, but they should be able to do it.
This is probably a fairly difficult question to answer, but overall, what is at stake for Trump in this trial?
It's interesting. Of all the trials, this is going to be the most, in terms of the prosecution, the most challenging, and is somewhat ridiculous in my opinion. I call this trial the Cirque du Soleil of legal contortionism. They're trying to take a legal, very straightforward non-disclosure agreement and turn it into a felony. And the bridges they have to cross and the dots they have to connect are all rife with reasonable doubt. And every step of the way, Trump's lawyers can show a legal reason why that occurred. So I think it's going to be a very tough case. In the event that Trump is convicted of a felony, I think he faces a maximum of up to 4 years. If it's just a misdemeanor, it's up to a year. Very little chance he would spend any time in prison, even if he is convicted. So I think in the long run, I think it even has a little more risk for Alvin Bragg. If he loses this case, he's going to lose credibility as a prosecutor, both in his ability to prosecute as well as in his selection of cases to prosecute. So I think the prosecution has as much at stake as Trump.
Do you think that Trump will actually testify? I know that's been up in the air. He has said that he does want to testify. Do you think it's actually going to happen? And also on that same note, do you think that Stormy Daniels will testify?
I don't think Trump will testify. He says he wants to, but I think he also understands the risk of that. And they really don't need him. You know, they can establish reasonable doubt through other angles on the bookkeeping, through the inconsistencies in the amount of the payments to Cohen versus what was actually paid to Stormy Daniels. Other people that have personal knowledge of the facts can testify. So I think that you know, absent some really extraneous circumstances, you know, he's not going to testify. Stormy Daniels probably will testify, but her testimony is going to be limited. You know, she's just going to say that she had the affair, which gives reason, you know, credibility to the fact they were trying to hush up the payment. But she's not going to be able to testify to bookkeeping. She's not going to be able to testify to how it should be characterized, how Michael Cohen was paid, the amounts that were paid, you know, the election interference. She's not going to be able to provide testimony on that. So it's going to be very limited with her.
And what about Michael Cohen?
Yeah. Michael Cohen is the key witness. You know, he's the one that's going to characterize these payments as being falsified, that they weren't legal expenses. It was a reimbursement of the hush money. And, you know, they're going to use his, when he plead down to a number of the felonies himself and serve time, they're going to use that to try to tie into Trump, saying, hey, he committed the crimes. He did so at Trump's direction. Therefore, Trump is responsible, guilty as well. So he's going to be the star witness. Now, it's going to be interesting because he's got a big credibility problem, as we all know. And whatever he says, Trump's lawyers are going to say, liar, liar, liar. So the case really rises and falls with Michael Cohen.
As far as, let's call it, order of importance, where does this case rank compared to the other cases, criminal cases there against former President Trump?
Well, it kind of depends. In terms of the merit of the cases going forward, I think this is the least meritful. The one advantage this case has is assume Trump becomes president, he can make the federal cases go away, but he can't make the state cases go away. So this one is a state case, and if for some reason, you know, they don't complete it by the election, which they should, or, you know, even after appeal, you know, it gets appealed and it won't come back for a year or two, he really can't do anything about it as president. So it is a little bit of a problem with that. But in terms of the merits and his ability to prevail, it's the highest. It's the least meritful, but the highest chance of him prevailing.
And as an attorney, I want to get your take on this because there's been questions about camera in court where some courtrooms have said, we don't want cameras in here. We don't want the press coverage because it could change up the trial and people will kind of act differently. So I want to get your take on the idea of cameras in court. Do you think, just based on what you've seen, that it would benefit the public to be able to watch all of this trial unfold?
I think it would definitely benefit the public, because no matter what, even if journalists are being as honest and as straightforward as they can, you know, they may not capture everything 100% accurately. So to actually see it, it does a couple of things. First of all, you see what's happening in the trial, and you can gauge for yourself the witnesses and whether or not he's guilty or not. But it also educates the public on the judicial process, which is very important. And this trial is so historic, involving a former president who is running for president, is extremely important. But I think this judge is going to keep cameras out. He has done so thus far. And judges are really concerned about it becoming a circus. You know, they have enough of a challenge creating, you know, maintaining decorum and order and a schedule in trials as they are. When you add the fact of publicity and things like that, plus the fact that Trump already it's going to be a challenge getting him in and out of court because of the Secret Service and security. And then to inject reporters into it, it just has a great potential to become a circus. And I don't think this judge is going to want to go down that road.
All right. Tre Lovell, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and kind of break all this down. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
No, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the evidence unfolds. It's probably going to be I would say a 3 to 4 week trial. You know, the juror selection will probably it could take up to a week. They may have a little bit of a challenge, you know, trying to seat those jurors. But I think we're going to have some surprises, as we do in every trial. We can try to predict what's going to happen ahead of time. But sometimes witnesses that are on the list don't show up. Sometimes you have a surprise witness. Very rarely happens, but can if they couldn't find it before, and they could argue is a good reason for him to come in, and the other side won't be prejudiced. So there could be some surprises. But it's going to be very interesting. I can tell you that.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.